quick.
And I'll be right back.
And you'll be right back again. Because now we're several seconds late.
Oh no!
I'm not sure.
Well, I don't see that it's live yet, so
we're 15 seconds into live right now, my friend.
Oh my God! There it is. How do I turn that off? There we go. All right. Hi, everybody. Spencer.
I'm just sending out a little Twitter tweet. A little tweety tweet. Cammie says it is live, so I believe her.
Yeah, it's live. I'm watching it right now. And then I was listening to it, lagging behind me like by 30 seconds. And
okay, we have beers. We're settled. You're off center. Yeah. You're half chopped off. Do you have my?
Okay, here we go.
Do you have my screen share?
How's that? Yeah, no, I can see it.
Well, now yeah, that's great.
Even the other way. Here we go. No, I can see it. Here I am. I got you. Here.
No,
okay, just don't move.
Don't move.
You know what I'm looking at right here on my screen? I'm looking at a Google search for how to disinfect an iPad.
Yeah, I
bet. So Paul and I have a project that we are on the last day of. And tomorrow we will go into the venue and we'll set the whole thing up. It's part physical, part augmented reality, and it's going to be 400 drunk people shaking each other's hands and trading iPads. And we've already got the coronavirus in Portland, so I'm expecting just to burst into flames tomorrow evening.
Yeah, I mean it's honestly it's no worse than last year when you were plopping VR headsets on everyone. So,
but we were using the little alcohol swabs, which we still have from last year, and so we've got these two big things of alcohol swabs that are still good because they properly sealed them, and so now we're going to be using those to swab down all of the iPads and apparently degrade the coating on the outside of it. But
those are borrowed iPads. So.
Oh, sorry. Never mind. Not going to degrade those.
Let's see. We got I updated the YouTube channel over the weekend. We now have proper links and most graphics are up to date, and that meant I had to listen to all 5 past episodes, not in a row, but pretty short succession. And I apologized in at least 3 of them for not updating the YouTube stuff. So that is done. I'm done apologizing for that. Also, our audio levels are hilarious because the first episode was actually pretty okay, but then we blew it out in the second, or I was completely blown out in the second one. And then we spent the next 3 episodes worried about our levels the whole time.
So how are we doing now? I mean, I'm in a completely different.
That's the problem. You keep changing your setup, so I keep trying to adjust around you. Like I think I might even be, but I think I now have us cranked down enough. Even when we blow out, it's not blowing people out. So right. And then the other I feel like I'm running like an HOA meeting. The other item on the agenda is we got some new jingles from Nick Lambert.
Oh my God, they're amazing.
So Spencer won't be able to hear these because of our setup, which we got to figure out how to fix sometime. But I'm going to play these for everyone, all 2 of you that are in the audience. And so just as a reminder, here's our little bumper he made for us, the little
XR Talk.
Little saxophone XR Talk. These are the 2 new ones, and I think these are longer and meant to be like our intro. And so I'm going to play we'll call this one intro number 1.
XR Talk with Paul and Spencer.
Let's call that one the podcast NPR version. And then here's number 2.
XR Talk with Paul and Spencer.
Very, very synthy, sexy. So we got to, and maybe we'll just use both, but we got to get our audio act together. So think about it. You don't have to answer now, but just let us know on the chat or Twitter or Discord. What else we got? I think so. The truth is the project Spencer was talking about has dominated our time the past week.
It has.
So what I thought we would do is share it, because it's a pretty simple project. So I'm gonna set up the premise, and then what we thought we would do is just show the current state of the project. It's a Unity-based project, and kind of walk through how we set up everything, and then I can talk about the layout of the project, and Spencer can talk about the art side of it and his workflow. And if anyone has questions, obviously we love questions. By the way, be sure to like and subscribe this video. See, I'm getting better about this stuff. So here's the project. It's for a nonprofit. They're a nonprofit, right?
They are a nonprofit.
Yeah, it's called Freshwater Trust. They're a Portland-based nonprofit focused on conservancy and our rivers. And they do is this their only big fundraiser event each year?
This is the big one that they do. They do other kind of fundraising activities during the year, but this is the big one.
Right?
This is where they bring everybody together, and this is the one that Paul and I did the 360 video for last year.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about maybe we could show that sometime too. But so the setting for this is a big event, public event. Well, it's a one-time event. They're bringing out a bunch of people that they hope will donate to the cause and invest or give funds. And so last year they had Spencer do this VR 360 thing, and it showed like the process of them. Spencer actually went out in the field and recorded in 360 video them doing their thing where they drop trees on the river to help kind of terraform and improve the river. So this year they wanted to do something in AR, and it is a very simple project because it's a nonprofit. It's not a huge budget, and we also didn't have a ton of time on it. So they also wanted to stay away from super detail. So it's kind of cartoony. It's very simple, but it's for a good.
Right. This is one of the problems or challenges that Paul and I had when we were doing work with the Monterey Bay Aquarium, was that they are an educational institution. They need to make sure that the morphology of the creatures that we're building is correct, and that the textures are right, and they act correctly.
And the budget and time of this project did not allow for that class of accuracy. So pretty.
I just want to say I just want to just real quick riff on one of the things that we do is instead of throwing a big chunk of money at the Sierra Club, or donating to our local. Hang on, this video from YouTube is driving me nuts. Instead of doing these kind of cash donations and giving that way, although we also do that, this we find is a really great way to give back to the organizations that we think are doing a job in the world to help the planet, to help nature, to help they're doing good.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we'll do is we'll charge these companies for a job that costs $1. We'll charge them 0.1, so that they can get their word out with really professional looking stuff. Professional as we can do it, and in that, within that budget. We definitely don't make money on these projects, but it's also it's good. It feels good to do it, and they're generally kind of fun too.
Yeah, and they're adventurous, right? They're willing to try this stuff, which is another fun part about it. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of preamble that with like, this was done in a very short amount of time with a very little limited budget, and we're doing it kind of as a charitable type of thing. But the good news is because it's a simple project, it actually makes it a great candidate. This is also something I want to do going forward, is showing some of our behind the scenes stuff. And so this is a fairly simple thing. So I thought it'd be a good time to do it. So first, what I wanted to show, if you may move on to the video, is that all right, Spence?
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing I'll show is, this is a video of, we're still working on it, by the way. We still have till tomorrow afternoon to finish it. So this was just...
we'll actually be working at the venue with our laptops on updates.
Yeah, wait. So actually, that's a good point. So keep in mind, I'm going to show you a video. I just recorded it here in my office, but the setup is in a party type fundraiser environment. There's a real physical table about the size of a conference room table. There's volunteers, and they welcome you over to the table. You start in one spot, and we walk you through the kind of major steps of the things that the Freshwater Trust does. And the goal is to get the visitor around the table and back out, because they're going to be running a lot of people through this, and hopefully sterilizing the devices before and after. So so this video is about a minute long, which is probably your average person will spend a minute looking at this. And so that's kind of the setup. So keep in mind, I recorded this in my office real quick today, but the general idea is you'd be walking up to a table and it's all decorated and lit and it looks cool. I just have it floating in space. So the other piece of this to start, so another thing I thought that might be interesting is, so many people that are interested in how this stuff gets made, all they see are these demos and these demo projects. But this is a real project that we had to think about, like, how's the volunteer going to control the content, and how are we going to register the content at the table? So that's a good start to this. So this is me running the app. So you'll see we've got a little bit of UI in the upper left. We're detecting a tabletop, and as soon as we detect a tabletop that's big enough, we show the content. And then so we're kind of in this one mode of setting up. So this is just the setup. And then I hit, let me pause it real quick so we can talk about it. So what happened here was I hit restart experience, which is what the volunteer would hit when they've placed it on the table. And then ideally this will just run all night long with people looking at it. But if they need to re-register it, or if they lose tracking or whatever, they'll be able to control the experience through this real simple UI. It's basically place the content, or start the experience, or restart the experience. Right. So we don't show that UI again. So I just want to cover that real quick. So you're standing at the end of the table. This is a welcome, and then it's highlighting the first step. And we've got a little spotlight to kind of draw their attention, because again, keep in mind this is covering up a whole conference table. And so they move on to the next step. We've got the spotlight moves to draw their attention. We've got some animated stuff coming in. Notice that the river, actually, so one thing, if you'll notice at the beginning here, the river's kind of yucky and brown. And so if you keep an eye on that as the stages progress, you're slowly cleaning up the river as you walk around this thing. So yeah, we take a look. They're dropping logs into the river, and there's cows in the river, which is bad, but we'll get to that. So then they come over here. They're planting trees, and they're working on improving the river. They're making deals with landowners. So normally the visitor would have walked around the end of the table, but because I'm in this little space, I just kind of walked through it. And then we release the cows. They move. They get out of the way, and you can already see.
Mesh agent.
Yeah, and now the river's clean, and then that's kind of the last step, and you can see that it's working. There's happy fish flying through the air. So Spencer, what's left to do on this based off what we just showed?
What's left to do? I've got
Yeah.
a whole Google sheet full of shit to do.
Yeah, I know that.
As far as I am amazed at how rapidly you and I were able to throw that down. I mean,
It's probably, I mean, if we really sat down and only worked on this day in and day out, it's probably, that's the other thing. That's why I love showing a real project, because it's not just us building. We had to deal with a client, and we had to go show it to them and take feedback. And so it's probably a couple weeks long project, which is about as short of a project you'd ever want to do for this. And we have, that's with other stuff going on. That's not our only thing. So pretty minimal.
When we started this project out, the first thing I did was I brought a land form that I had taken from. There's a great little plugin for Cinema 4D called DEM Earth. And you can basically get a 3D textured landform of anywhere on the planet, pretty much, at pretty high resolution with this little piece. And so I took a little chunk of this part of the Sandy River, just on the slopes of the mountain there, and brought that in. And I was like, yeah, look, we're going to use this. And what they said was, well, actually, the farmers are on the edge of farming stuff. The large wood application with the helicopter, that stuff's up in the forest. The planting is somewhere in between, and all of these things are happening in different places. There's not really one representative true place, and this goes back to that challenge that we had with the Monterey Bay Aquarium, where there's we have to kind of do realities. So I said, well, why don't we abstract this out and kind of make it cartoony, and we'll have this cartoony version that has all of those places, and we're gonna kind of throw them all together in this one short little space, so that we can just walk around the table instead of having to get into a car and drive to the next AR experience. And so that's what we did. One of the reasons why I what's that? Cammy's
excited.
So that's why we kind of went with the blocky kind of cartoony look. And I told my artist that I use a lot up in Canada. I said to Liam, I need some fish, and they got to be swimming and textured and stuff. But this is the world that they're in, and I don't think he quite got that. So he made these fish that are just you're not seeing these fish.
Well, I can bring them up. I got them.
Yeah. So it's everything is kind of the same flavor, and then Liam's just totally shows me.
Right, they're they're shiny and scaly and bump mapped and all this stuff.
Yeah, bump map. They got a normal map on them and everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So that's the. I don't know what I was trying to say about that, but yeah, Freshwater Trust project is awesome and almost done. And then tomorrow we will. One of the cool things about this is that it's there's a printout of this 3D model that we had done that's 7 feet by 4 feet, and that will be on the table. And then there's a lighting strip around the whole thing because we don't know what the lighting condition is going to be, so we're controlling our own lighting. So we've got kind of a physical aspect to it. And so people who don't have the iPads are going to just see this printout, and people with the iPad will see this on top of that printout.
Yeah, so I was going to kind of, for people that are not familiar with Unity, but I think even if you are used to working in Unity, it might be kind of cool to see how I like to lay these projects out. I'm kind of a stickler for organization on this stuff, as Spencer will attest. I just reorganized the folders today, the day before the project's supposed to go. But so we're in Unity. We have this project open. There's actually 2 scenes. So what I have is when you use AR Foundation in Unity, you always have this little structure, this rig, which is an AR session, and then an AR session origin, which has your camera under it. And these 2 objects basically exist in every AR Foundation project. And then I have come to find that there's a lot of common UI that I use, which is things like guiding someone to move the device around to find planes, or controlling the visibility of the planes, and also just showing what the planes look like. So I wrap all that up in a reusable scene that I'm calling AR Base, and I actually keep it totally separate from the project-specific content. The beauty of keeping a separate scene for your AR kind of boilerplate is then if you change a scene, maybe this is a multi-scene project, your boilerplate doesn't get like copied over to the other scene. We've also been working on another project that does have 2 different AR experiences, but it's in the same project. So the nice thing is I can work on the AR piece of it separately. So in Unity, the way this works is you can have multiple scenes loaded at the same time. So I'm going to actually unload this scene, and you can see my camera went away. The content's still here because I didn't unload that. I can actually fully remove this scene, and here's all of our content completely intact. So the way you turn that on is I have my AR-based scene here. I just right-click. I say Open Scene Additive, and that'll bring it back, and you can see my camera came back. So in my game view in the lower left here, I can see it. So that I like to keep things really separate. And then in the actual main content scene, this is a very simple project. So we only have 1 scene for the content. And what I generally like to do is I like to organize the top left scene hierarchy. I like to try to keep the visual pieces and the content pieces separate from the logic when it makes sense. I'm not super strict about that, but a part of that's practicality, because a lot of times Spencer will be working in the on the content and the art, and if I need to make a quick code change, we do use Git to sync all this stuff, and keeping those things separate can usually save us trouble, but that's not always the case, as we had today. We had an issue with that. But so what I have in the main scene is I have 3 top-level objects: content root. And the content root is where we have everything that you see, basically. And you can see that we called these scenes. Each one of these steps is a scene. And so I'm going to actually hit play. And you'll see when I hit play, everything kind of turns itself off, and once my beach ball stops spinning, so you can see we're now in scene. Yeah, so we're not using Unity scenes here. These could have been called stages or whatever. You can see in my lower left my game view. So this is another thing in AR. All these inputs are triggered off taps on the screen, but when we're iterating a lot in Unity, we don't want to always be building on the device. So I try to hook up things that make Spencer's life easier and my life easier. So one of those examples is you'll see that we're currently in the welcome scene. I hooked it up so when I hit spacebar, it'll move us to the next scene. And so you can actually see both the UI change, you can see the scenes change, and as we progressively go through, each scene turns itself on. And then I made it where you can actually wrap around, so that way you can go through all these different things really fast and see what's going on.
Right.
And the other nice thing about that is Spencer's got a lot of animations and things that happen as you go through these stages. So like, let's say right here in one of the stages, we've got some artwork that comes up. So that can automatically happen when that object gets turned on, which is really nice. And then when we go all the way through, you'll see that it'll just reset. So that was kind of a nice way to organize it. I think that worked out pretty well. We kept the UI really simple. Because we knew it would be people not paying attention, drinking at a fundraiser type of thing. So our UI is actually this entire area is tappable. Everywhere where you see that green box, that's a collider, and that's that. When they tap that, it'll advance the next scene.
Oh, I have a question. Did you put that collider underneath the face camera script, or is it?
They're now together. So it's
okay. So it rotates with it.
Yes.
Okay.
So I wrote them all big. Yeah. So that's why we don't need them big anymore. So we have all this stuff. If you notice in the video, all this UI stuff faces the camera. That way, somebody, no matter where they're walking or looking, can always read the text. So yeah, that's kind of the general structure. Definitely if anybody has any questions about stuff. On the app manager, so I usually have an object called app or app manager or whatever, and I tuck in, there's a lot of little objects you need in Unity to run the event system. I've got I'm using this package called Lean Touch that requires to have this kind of, these are positional, they have no position in the scene. They don't need to be positioned in the scene at all, so I like to just tuck them under the app manager. And really everything's driven by, I don't know, I really don't, this is the first time we've done the screen share thing, so I really don't know how easy this stuff is to read, but on the app manager object, I have the app script, which this handles all of the logic and drives everything. And then I've got the scene manager, which handles turning on and off stuff as you go through stuff. So yeah, that's kind of a tour. The AR based thing, I'm actually reusing all of this code in a totally different project, and I've been playing around with using Unity's package manager to be able to share those from a common. Right now, they're kind of copied and pasted, and you can't actually load Unity packages locally. So I've been playing around with that. So it's kind of a tour. I don't know what else.
I would like to do a little shout out for Paul. Paul,
I would love a shout out.
Building for me little tools for 10 something years now, and one of my favorite tools that he's ever built for me is, it started out called Spinny, and now it's called Floaty Spinny, and it's
You're not even using it.
Huh?
It's not even using
it. We're using it on. I'm using it on two things. I'm using it on the helicopter rotors. We're using the spinny part.
Oh, okay.
And then on the handshake, the floaty part.
So let's go to the helicopter here.
There we go.
So we got our helicopter, and so there's a couple different ways you could animate the propellers on this, right? Spencer,
you could either take them, do the animation in Cinema, Maya, Max, whatever, Blender. Sorry, don't want to offend anyone. And then consume that animation data with Unity, set it up to loop, set the frame duration, and then they'll just sit there and rotate when that thing is on. But it's actually really super easy if those guys if they're centered correctly and they have their coordinate system correct. You can just rotate them on their y-axis with floaty spinny. Floaty spinny. It's going to be like everyone's going to need floaty spinny now after this podcast.
Well, so I've got one of the rotors selected here. I guess it's going to move though when I could turn off the animator. And I will not check these changes in. So I'll hit play, and the script should kick in. Chug. Okay, so they're rotating, and this is just using this little spin. So if I turn it off, it'll stop. What's really funny is we could turn on float, and
crank that up.
Yeah, get it floating crazy. Thankfully, I'm doing this on play mode. So yeah, this is the simplest script in the world. I don't think I played around with trying to show code on here. It's pretty painful, I think, because it's so tiny.
When Paul was super busy with Torch, and I was trying to do something, and I was like, "Oh, I can write floaty spinny. I can do that." And so I sat down for, I think, a full day trying to figure out how to write floaty spinny, and I think I made something that
it worked.
It worked okay, but it was awful. And I think I showed it to you, and you were like, "Oh, so."
Yeah. So let's see. We got a couple questions. So Eric asks, like, what available Unity was helpful to start off? So AR Foundation. So we are running on preview packages here. So AR Foundation version 3 is still in preview, but I've found it to be totally stable and usable. And they provide a GitHub repo called AR Foundation Samples. And I've complained numerous times on Twitter about it because I'm not a huge fan of these Uber projects. And basically, it's one project provided by Unity, and it's got a couple dozen scenes in it that show you all these different features. And if you want to if you're like, oh, cool, I want to use people occlusion in my project, how do I get it out of their sample project and into mine? And it's such a mess to pluck stuff out of them. That's why I started my little reusable AR-based thing, because I kept rebuilding these little pieces and reusing them across projects. And when I make an improvement, I want that improvement to appear in the other project, or if I add
it's wonderful.
Cool. Yeah. So it's a lot of Googling AR Foundation stuff. I mean, those packages are those examples are helpful to show you what's possible and what works, but it's kind of a pain because you have to pull it from a GitHub repo. You've got to pull the right tag or branch based on what version of AR Foundation you're using. So I ran into that. Actually, when I got people occlusion working, I was working on spatial anchoring, and I had pulled the wrong, or I had the wrong sample code that didn't match my version, and they don't tell you any of that. So I've complained directly to the Unity team about these things because it's a pain. So let's see.
Got a question from Todd Little.
Yeah, let's see. I had that one. How are you loading? Oh yeah. Yeah, Todd. Actually, I will show you because I think this is kind of cool. I'm still trying to decide if it's how I want to go, but it's working right now. So this is the app class for the Freshwater Trust project. I will try my best to zoom in. You guys tell me if this is readable at all. So my Freshwater Trust app derives from my AR app. And AR app is a super simple class that has this little call in it called AR Scene Manager or initialize AR. And I just say load the scene base. And so that calls into a static call into a class called AR Scene Manager. And I will try my best to get over there. Let's see. My computer is loving all this streaming in Unity and everything running at the same time. Cami says it's readable. Cool. So there, I have this other class called AR Scene Manager. So actually, this is a good question because I have found when you work with AR Foundation, there are these very, very common objects you're always wanting access to for various different reasons. And these are all Unity provided things, except for the UI thing, which is my own little thing. But you always want to try to, there are different reasons why you need to get to the session origin, the session, the camera, the plane, the raycast. That's all coming from Unity. And so I wanted a clean way to be able to get to those. So I have this AR Scene Manager class, and it's actually set up to where you can hook it all up through the inspector. But if you don't hook it up, it actually tries to fill itself out, which is really handy. And then you can see when this is in the scene, when it starts, it will fire off a callback to everyone that's registered themselves to say, hey, the AR scene is ready. When you get that callback, you know that all of these things are ready to go. So anyway, back to your original question. There's this static call called load AR scene base. And I first check to see if the scene's already loaded, because that can happen when you're in the editor and you already have it up and running, or if you're going through different scenes. If it's not, I just simply do an additive load, and I just load it by name. So that's just my scene that's called. So AR app does that when you call initialize AR. And then so your actual app class, once it's ready, where do I call that? In my start of my app class, I actually say, hey, initialize AR. And then I will get my AR scene ready callback here. And I actually go ahead and cache these guys one more time, because I use them a lot for different stuff. So yeah, so I basically have an app class. The app class derives from AR app, and then AR app handles loading the scene additively, which is cool, because that means like even when I have, I think this will work, even when I have the scene completely unloaded in the editor, it'll still load it up for me, even if I forget, if my computer isn't chugging. So yeah, that's a good question, Todd. Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Kami said it was readable. Eric says he feels like a cat in yarn. That sounds like not a good feeling. Spencer's testing my patience with his snap filters that apparently nobody's paying attention. This is we will never do a later night stream again.
No, we will not. No, we will not. All right, so what else can we talk about? Because there's a lot of shit to talk about.
Well, I could talk about the AI thing real quick. Just because this is a public service announcement almost. Kami didn't approve of your shenanigans. So no. So these cows, these little chubby cows, they are they're nav mesh agents. So,
and I'll have you know that the artist set all this stuff up, and then Paul came in and broke it all.
I'll tell you why the artist version didn't work. So by default, so what you're looking at here is the little cows. The little green circles around them is showing their properties as a navigation agent.
And by the way, this aspect of Unity is so freaking cool and usable. You can do so many neat things with this. It's only on a 2D plane right now, but yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is how a autonomous object can navigate itself through a scene, and the blue splotch is all the walkable areas for the cows. So
and that's just a chunk that I pulled out of the original model at the same it's basically the same model. I deleted everything except for the stuff I wanted them to walk on, and then brought that in as just the nav mesh. And I used that as the fodder to create this blue nav mesh thing.
Yeah. So then so when I hit, I think this will be the next stage. You can see they're navigating themselves automatically to this goal spot, which is way over here, or it's right here. actually. So this is all great if you just use the standard Unity stuff.
God, it's like a cow bloodbath.
I know. So the problem is, in a traditional game, you would build this level and you'd say, yeah, that's my walkable area. And then you would bake it out, which means that this gets saved out. And
It's a separate file.
Yeah, it gets saved out as a separate file, and it's the navigation mesh that those agents will use if they're close enough to it. The problem in augmented reality, and with this project in particular, is this terrain can be moved arbitrarily anywhere in the environment, and unfortunately, a baked nav mesh does not move with it. So Spencer got it mostly working using the traditional baked technique, but then
we'd put the mesh, the landscape down on the table, and we'd move it a little bit, and then the cows would be like over there on the floor next to the dog food bowl.
Yeah,
there's little cows in the kitchen.
Yeah, so the navigation mesh was broken. So it turns out you can bake a nav mesh at runtime. This I was floored that I had to do this. Unity provides a way to bake a nav mesh at runtime. If you go to a special GitHub repo set up just for this, provided by Unity, and you download a handful of scripts, and they allow you to bake a nav mesh at runtime. So now what I do is we set up you set it up essentially the same way. But instead of baking for the project, then anytime the project starts or the content starts, I rebake the nav mesh at the new location of the content, and it works fine. So now you can move it wherever you want and rotate it wherever you want. But I have to say, I had not done a lot with nav mesh agents and that stuff before this little simple task, and it seemed like it worked perfectly. And then we ran into this bizarre problem yesterday where it was throwing errors, but only when you ran it on the desktop. It meshed at runtime, so I had to fix all that. So that's, once again, this is the other thing I heard myself saying a lot in past episodes. The stuff is a mess, and it's not easy. And it's like, even like you'd be like, just like you did, Spencer, but like before I jumped in on it, you're like, oh, I'll figure out how to make a character walk along a certain terrain. And you follow the directions, and it worked for you. So
great.
Why wouldn't it work?
We were actually moving it around in the world, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, a little pro tip: if you want to do any navigation stuff on a piece of content, I'm super interested to see how the Unity Mars stuff, if they address this at all. I may actually take this project and port it to Mars just to see, because it's got a few elements that supposedly it would help with. But anyway, hit us up if you find yourself trying to figure that stuff out. At the end of the day,
don't hit me.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I don't know. Ask Paul.
It's pretty simple. At the end of the day, there's this nav mesh surface thing, and you can tell it to build based off different criteria. And
right,
so
you can tell it what the step height is, and how steep of a hill it can go up, and how wide it is. Because if you look at if you zoom in on where the cows are right now, Paul, if that nav mesh is not wide enough for the width of the cow's agent parameter to go through, then it'll get stuck. It won't go through. So
yeah. And I'll turn off the nav mesh visualizer so you can see, and then this piece of geometry, I have to keep it in the scene because we're baking at runtime. So I just made it completely clear that if I crank up the alpha, so this was the patch of geometry that Spencer gave me to make, and I just colored it magenta, which is kind of my go-to, just in case we ever accidentally left it on, we would know something's very wrong. But by default, it's just completely transparent, and it's just there in the hierarchy, and it's got a special tag on it that tells the navigation mesh baker to do it.
Use it. What's that sound, Paul?
it's dogs. Like I said, we will never do another evening stream again.
Yeah, we are a little late on this one. I had to run over to the Freshwater Trust at 4 o'clock and show them this before tomorrow when we're, they're still kind of disbelieving. I told them today, I said, we're actually going to be coding and making art changes and stuff tomorrow, at the venue.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what? It's real-time 3D, so you can just make another build. You're good. It's not like a film project. And we had that kind of confusion and fear at the aquarium too a couple times.
Yeah. Well, and I think with
changes right up to the end.
When you're building an AR project for a specific environment, and especially a specific event, I think it is really important to test on the in the actual environment. Like we know the lighting's going to be funky, and we've got some plans to mitigate it, but we got to test it to see, and I to have a good experience, I think you have to. So it's another thing to think about. So I don't know. I thought it'd be interesting to share a project that is actually going to be used in by a bunch of people. We didn't spend a ton of time on it. Honestly, that stupid nav mesh thing I just explained took a lot of my time. Everything else has been pretty quick.
I love this. Do you have the screenshot of what I sent to you about colliders?
No, I closed on my Slack and everything because I listened.
It's so great.
Episode 1, my Slack notifications are going off the whole time.
Paul's repo comments are amazing. Fixed up next scene colliders. The next one is refixed colliders. The next one is fuck, I love colliders.
I try to keep it professional until I can't, and then we get real in the commit comments. So I use GitHub. We use GitHub. We use Git, and we host it on GitHub. And I use the command line. Spencer uses GitHub Desktop. We have still find workflow issues with Unity and Git, even though we've gotten pretty good. We use Git LFS for all the binary stuff, so the repo size doesn't get out of hand. But there's still, when you got more than one person digging into a scene, so usually the way we mitigate that is we use a lot of what Unity calls prefabs, and you kind of bake in your content and your settings into the prefabs, and the scene just becomes this like holder for prefabs. And then in an ideal world, in a traditional app engineering environment, you would run branches and we would merge and everybody be working in their own branch. But I try to keep it simple when it's just a couple of us and we're working quickly.
Right.
So the other thing you can do if you don't want to mess with branches and all that stuff is have scenes that we both work in, and then there's kind of the blessed main scene. That's another way we've done it, where there's kind of like the main scene that if you're putting anything in there or doing anything in there, it's serious. But usually that main scene's really just holding the prefabs, and then we have our own little scenes that we work in to build those up. And we probably should have done that for this one.
And we probably should have done that on this one, but it was kind of last minute. Hey, let's just do this thing quick. And the next project definitely would love to go with a little more rule making, because I appreciate that.
Yeah. So that's our Unity AR project. And then we've got a really cool one that's much more, complicated and has taken a lot longer, and we'll still be working on it for a while longer, but it's loading multiple experiences, it's interacting with all this stuff, and but that one's a longer term project.
It's secret squirrel.
And it's secret.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I am so exhausted from the last 4 days.
I know.
I'm like, what else do we talk about?
Todd, thank you so much for giving us these good questions. So Todd asks, have you tested the battery drain? No, what we're doing is they're going to have 3 iPads live at any given time. So there'll be 3 participants walking around the table at any given time. And then there'll be 3 on chargers. So there's 5 or 6 total iPads, but with 3 in service. It's also a contingency in case somebody, forbid, drops one. We've got extra. So we're not too worried about battery life on this one. We are running on a mishmash of hardware, though, so I'm a little concerned. We do have the hand occlusion and the segmentation occlusion stuff in, and I can crank that all the way up, and it looks really cool. But I want to, tomorrow when we get there and we're going to test every device. I want to see I want to see what we were working with, because if we don't have all iPad Pros, I'm not going to turn that on.
Right.
But yeah, so we don't have too much of a concern with battery life on this one. So we're going to have redundancy and a charging station.
And it's actually done pretty well. Like I've been.
Yeah, we're not doing a lot.
We're not doing that much with it. It's not really like using the horsepower.
Yeah, that's a good question though. I mean, it is. I think that's maybe the most interesting part about this is you, like I said, you see these demos, you see these example projects and these little throwaway things, and it's like when you have to build something for real that people are going to use in a production environment, there's a lot of little overhead and things you have to consider that take time to deal with. I mean, we spent a little bit of time on the UI knowing that we weren't going to be there proctoring the experience, that some volunteers going to need to have a big green button that they can hit, literally.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so fucking tired. I'm sorry. I was like, yeah, I got something to say.
I'm sure it was great. The good news is we've almost hit our hour.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be relieved.
I'm gonna be so much better next time. We're gonna have stuff from Hoxel. We're gonna do a live simulcast of me as a volumetric video. We're gonna have some demonstration, either video or live, of the
Don't make promises you can't keep.
No. I'm gonna keep going. Of the Lightform device.
Oh yeah, the Lightform. Yeah, we do have some cool stuff coming up.
I'm gonna have a Boston Dynamics Spot robot here.
Yeah, sure.
I'll be wearing a jetpack.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing this from 40,000 feet.
That's all fine as long as you got more energy, man. That's all we're asking for.
Yes, I will have that much energy next time.
Hey, this is real XR talk. We're tired because we've been working on this project.
Tired.
And we still got more work to do. Maybe we'll show if there's material improvement from what we showed today. Maybe next week we'll show a little final update.
With all the sparkly fairy dust on it. Yeah,
little. We got a few more hours of work to do. That's plenty of time to add some fun stuff in there.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, we do our best work on site.
Yeah. So yeah, well, we pulled it off. We have done 5 Wednesdays in a row, and that is awesome. You can like and subscribe, Eric. I know you'd be proud. Thank you. Discord, we're at chat.xrtalk.net. You can check out our ongoing WebXR website experiment, which is just the xrtalk.net. And then watch.xrtalk.net will take you to our YouTube channel. Thanks so much for being in the audience and participating and asking awesome questions. That really helps keep us going. Yeah. The Discord chat's still doing great. Todd, who asked a bunch of great questions tonight, just did a really good presentation for an XR event in Seattle. I shared that in there. So yeah, and we do have lots of fun stuff coming up. And I don't know. Now we know we don't want to do this at 6 o'clock at night after a long day.
Oh God, no.
So now we know.
No, this is the 4 o'clock PST thing is going to work for me.
Did anybody? We didn't get any votes on the music. So am I just gonna have to pick a?
Maybe we should do a little a Twitter or Twitter
we'll
and Discord little voting thing, you know.
But for this one, I'm gonna use one, and I'm gonna sign us.
And I'm not gonna be able to hear it.
Yeah. So well, actually, wait. Let me see if I can switch it real quick. Oh man, I'm going crazy. Okay, I'm switching over to display audio.
XR Talk with Paul and Spencer.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.